Hey, did you hear about that cop that shot the unarmed black guy? Oh, you mean the one that robbed a store and then grabbed a cop's gun when he was stopped after the fact? I don't know about all that, but that cop had to be racist. I mean, hands up, don't shoot, right? You know that entire movement was based on a lie, right? The investigation determined that his hands were not up when he was shot. Psh, man, you're a cop. What do you know? Hey guys, Deputy Patriot here. So by now I'm sure you figured out what this video is about. The idea that all police are racist is a growing problem in our culture today. I would venture to say that police approval is at an all-time low. I would also venture to say that because of the mass misinformation spread every time a cop uses force against a minority, justified or not, people tend to be more violent with police as a result. Of course, this doesn't apply to everyone, and every situation is different, but according to statistics, most police uses of force are justified. Yes, even the ones you see on the news that look bad, use of force never looks good. What I'm talking about are incidents like Ferguson, where a black man allegedly robbed a store and was soon after stopped by an officer. While stopped, the man fought with the officer and attempted to grab his gun. And before you say anything like, he could have used a taser, he was just trying to get away, why else would somebody try to take an officer's gun while they're being stopped? Think about it. It's to shoot him. So the officer fired shots at the man, clearly in self-defense, and the man died. This case was immediately spun out of control by the media and even the White House due to witness testimony that said the man had his hands up when he was shot. It was later determined that that was not the case. The autopsy results showed otherwise. The officer was cleared after several federal investigations prompted by the White House and deemed to have used appropriate use of force in order to protect his life. Despite these facts, the damage was already done. People watched the initial breaking news story and never heard it was all a lie after the fact, or they just chose not to believe it. Because of this, Hands Up Don't Shoot was formed, and the movement went nationwide, turning into what is now known as Black Lives Matter. And before I delve into this any deeper, I want to strongly reiterate, yes, Black lives do matter. All lives matter. Yeah, I know some people are probably going to say, well, you can't say all lives matter. I get it, all right? All lives do matter, though, and that's the bottom line, okay? But that's not to say that Black lives don't matter. Nothing I say from this point on should suggest otherwise. I think many of us would agree that Black Lives Matter is one of the largest anti-police and anti-white organizations since the Black Panthers. And it's based on a lie. With tensions already high, the Ferguson case did not help with the police image. Now it seems you can't scroll through social media without seeing a headline that claims police brutality against a minority. Now this isn't to say that those claims aren't true from time to time, but generally they are deemed justified sometime after the initial news reports. That's because of due process and investigations. When the media reports something, it's usually when it just happened and there's barely any facts. Just the surface of the facts are coming out, and there's so much more to that iceberg of information. Now, it seems to me that there's a pattern associated with these incidents. So the incidents happen. The angered family or witnesses contact the local media and give the media a story about how they believe the officer acted with racial intent. Then the local news reports it, the news goes viral, it spreads nationally, if not globally. It turns into this huge anti-police march, a movement, whatever it may be. And then some months later, maybe even a year later, depending on the process, investigations take a very long time. It's not like Law and Order, it's not like CSI. They take months, if not years. After the investigation is concluded and evidence has been processed, those cases where the use of force is deemed justified seem to never make it on the air. Do you see how that's flawed? The media spent all that time riling people up and won't put the same effort into correcting their mistake as they did jumping on the story in the first place. It seems to be all about the juice, not the content. Cops all over the country who have nothing to do with any of these incidents are being ridiculed on a daily basis and scrutinized for simply doing their jobs, protecting and serving. Not trying to overstep my boundaries here, but most citizens typically have no clue what a police officer's job entails. And I would also say that most citizens couldn't handle it. Okay, so here's the question. Are cops racist? Generally speaking, no. As with all professions, there are bad apples. I'd venture to say there are less bad apples in law enforcement when compared to other professions, simply because of the rigorous selection process and competition involved. I've only been in law enforcement for just under 3 years, but I haven't seen a single case of police brutality, racism, prejudice, anything like that in any agency I've come into contact with. I know 3 years really isn't that long, but with about 50,000 calls for service per year, we're not doing too bad. Now, I'm sure police racism actually exists in some areas, but from my experience in my area, it just isn't an issue. Even so, people in this area are acting like it is an issue. Okay, so I've been ranting for a minute or two now. I do that a lot, but I do have a solution to this problem. The problem is that local issues are being broadcasted nationally and making people think it's a national issue. In reality, it's simply a local issue that needs to be addressed locally. Since I know the media will continue to do everything they can to make money off of these juicy stories, my solution isn't for them to stop nationalizing these stories. It's for you to think for yourself. The next time you see a news story that claims police brutality, weigh the facts, research it. Like I said, think for yourself. Has it ever happened to you? Has it ever happened to a friend of yours? Has it happened in your city or in your state? If the answer is no, then you probably don't need to concern yourself with it. If the answer is yes, then do something about it. I absolutely think something should be done. If that is a problem in your area, of course something should be done. Racism in any way, shape, or form is not okay, especially when it's being perpetrated by people with authority. Get in touch with your city or state government. Express your concerns. Things don't get done by just sitting at home and holding grudges. Now, before I end this video, I want to address an issue that has come up in my area due to these issues. In my state, we are now required post-Ferguson to fill out what's called a racial profiling form for every traffic stop we make. The spirit of the law is to reduce racial profiling, which is a good thing. I think we can all agree that's a good thing. The problem is it punishes officers for doing nothing wrong. The law requires any officer who stops more than a certain percentage of minorities that live in their jurisdiction to be punished by their agency. It takes no consideration for the reason of the stop. It simply says you must be punished if you cross that line. I can't tell you how many traffic stops I've made, but I can tell you how many traffic stops I've made based off of the driver or occupant's skin color. That number is 0. In fact, when I make a traffic stop, I'm usually behind them and I can't see their skin color in the first place. So, let's say for example, if you stopped your limit of Latino Americans for the month or whatever period of time it may be, and you make a traffic stop on a vehicle that's all over the roadway, then you walk up to the car and realize that the driver is a Latino American and extremely intoxicated. You're faced with a choice. Now, the obvious choice is to do your job and arrest the suspect for driving while intoxicated or whatever it may be. But if you do so, the law still says, guess what? You still have to be punished because you stopped another Latino American when you've reached your limit. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I've also taken up game streaming, as there's really not a lot of Leo streamers out there. If you're interested in checking me out on Twitch, I'll leave the link in the description. As always, stay vigilant, stay safe. I'll see you next time.